play. Today we have with us Sriram Raghavan and Anurag Kashyap, two contemporary stalwarts of Indian cinema. They have given us some very brilliant, outstanding crime-related films for the Indian audience. Today we will be talking to them about their common fascination for crime-related stories and Raman Raghavan. Incidentally, both of them have worked on that subject.
He did 1.0 and we did 2.0.
Yeah. So can the first question be why this character, the serial killer, has fascinated both of you?
It fascinated him before it did me.
No, for me what happened is when I just come out of the institute, there was this, that time there was no satellite also, and there was just VHS was there, and there was this little company in Andheri East where they wanted to make these VHS tapes which will come out once a month, and each tape will have it's called police channel, each one will have one crime related story which is to do with the Bombay cops and a couple of other documentary features and so on. So mine was supposed to be the first of that lot, and then we were supposed to do many others, and so when I was looking at subjects from the Bombay police case, that time it was Bombay, so I read Charles Sobraj, how he was caught in Goa by the Bombay cops, and a lot of such cases. So among them I came across Raman Raghav, which once you read about him or a little bit know about him, he just fascinates you because that's it, actually.
Yeah, it was the company was called Media Classics.
Yeah. Media Classics.
And they East basement.
You have explored the psychological part of his trauma, psychological conflict. But anything that probably captured your imagination?
No, see, there was not much literature on him, but there was one account by this the head of the crime branch, Narayan. So I read his account and it was fascinating. Then I started doing a little more research and not much was available. There was one terrific set of articles by Kushwant Singh. He had covered the trial for the Illustrated Weekly. That particular article has come out in his new anthology in non-fiction called, I think, Portrait of a Serial Killer. So, I read about that, it fascinated me, and luckily at that time a lot of the cops who were involved in that case were alive. Mm-hmm. So I met Mr. Kulkarni, I met the Commissioner of Police at that time, E.S. Modak. They were all living in Pune at that time. And I got a lot of information. It's a fascinating case. And I love, these kind of stories and serial killers. This guy was actually one of the early Indian kind of cases of serial killings in that sense we know. So I don't know, it just fascinated me. Maybe because Silence of the Lambs had just come out. I don't know. Possibly all those things are there.
The idea that India had a serial killer.
Yeah.
Because later we found out there are many more.
Many more, and including the world record is this guy, this thug, who's apparently killed some.
Thug Bairam. But the India has had serial killers who pata hi nahi tha. For me, my thing was I joined Media Classics right after he finished his film. So my kind of introduction into Media Classics was the screening of his film. So I was there at the end of it, and I was completely fascinated. I had no clue about Raman Raghav. For me, my introduction to Raman Raghav was the film, and then I started reading the literature of it. And I've been obsessed with Raman Raghav since then. And वो दिमाग में घूमता ही रहा. And later on, when we were doing research on Bombay, digging into Bombay's history of crime, I came across this books, the same R.S. Kulkarni's book, The Sands of Time.
Footprints on the
Sands of Time. Of crime, sorry. Footprints on the Sands of Crime. And then you read he was like the first super cop of Bombay. He was the man who cracked most cases. And he became the character in, the KK's character in Bombay, it was based on him. So the idea was I was doing this whole series of Bombay stories. And one of them was Raman Raghav after Bombay Alvet. And the R.S. Kulkarni, KK's character and the newspaper Blitz, which became Blitz in Bombay, are the ones that are going to connect all the Bombay stories. So that was the idea with Bombay trilogy, which did happen.
Yeah, I remember about 6-7 years back he had told me 3 films. One was what he did in Bombay, the Nariman Point, that thing. Second was Raman Raghav, and third was Nanavati.
And we were also doing the Lloyd's. Lloyd's bank robbery.
So you really could not let go of that idea even after Bombay?
No, because we were so invested in Raman Raghav. And Vasan had written an entire script. Itna kaam karne ke baad, and suddenly we were told we can't make the film because Bombay didn't work. Before that, everybody was gung ho about going into Raman Raghav. And then I was very depressed and sad, and the title came first. So I said, okay, we can't make Raman Raghav, can we make Raman Raghav 2.0? because they said you won't get budget to create in 60s. I said, okay, fine, then let's make it contemporary. And the problems came with it. Like, how do we make it contemporary? The guy existed in the 60s, you can't put him in the 2013 and 15 and make a film. So the title came 2.0, then we decided, and suddenly it occurred how to go about it. I went back to a play I wrote in 1993, so which was about a man who was accused of a crime and this judge across him, and they're talking about, which became the scene in the trailer. So
And
that's
what
how it
was
all
the title
started.
of the play?
I don't know, that play was called Faisla or something. It was a one-act play that was performed by NM students and everywhere. They also made a 3-minute film on that play as an exercise film in exercise scene. I remember a bunch of students made it where I acted as the killer.
So,
There's a long
Raman Raghav film, the one Sriram made, seems to have impacted both your life in a different ways. Of course, Sriram, even though it never got released, you were constantly asked about it.
Not constantly. I mean, now because of this film, suddenly there is a lot of people who ask about it. But yeah, occasionally there are also bootleg copies.
Also surprising because people don't know about the history of crime.
Yeah.
People had no clue about Raman Raghav.
Yeah.
So when I think we announced the film, everybody was wondering, what is this Raman Raghav? Then I think everybody started going back to Sriram has done a film and in the history of suddenly there's more information on Raman Raghav on the internet than it was before.
Like for me, what's interesting is he used to come to that Media Classic, and he had, I think, he used to go to this lovely bookshop called Lotus in Bangalore. And he was doing some daily soaps. He used to get a lot of money. We used to buy a lot of books, and we used to go like once in 15 days, 1 month. Can I buy Pulp Fiction ka script kind of a thing? You know, that was. There were times when really it's all downloadable, but so he used to come with 10 books at a time. You know, and so we used to just kind of chat about books and movies and.
And it was Sridhar actually who introduced me to Noir.
Okay.
So for me, it was before I met Sridhar, I had no idea about Dashiell Hammett.
That's
and
my
Chandler.
brother. That's my brother.
Yeah, I know.
And so Sridhar introduced me first to Parker.
Okay.
And from Parker, I went on to Dashiell Hammett and Chandler, and suddenly I discovered this whole new world. It was absolute credit to Sriram Raghavan. And then we started talking.
And then then he moved out of that place and worked with Ramu and did Satya. And I had loved Satya. I mean, like it was one of those movies.
I actually saw Rangila together in bed
Yeah.
before I worked with Ramu. Yeah.
And Satya, and then I told him, well, no, I love that movie, I'd like to meet him. And then he had actually given Ramu the VHS
Of Raman Raghav.
of Raman Raghav, which then Ramu called me and he said, I want to meet you. And then, you know, so I got my first film thanks to Raman Raghav in a sense. So it's kind of a mad thing.
So there are two things I want to know. I want to know how Satya, maybe Shiva started it, how Satya and Shiva changed the way we did crime films.
I think more than Shiva was still within the mainstream format of this one of those like robust action movies, except the way it was shot. And Pratibandh and Shiva, and that was one phase. But for us, I think it was Bandit Queen and then Satya.
Yeah.
Bandit Queen and then Satya.
Where you show things as they are, you know, raw, ugly, whatever, you just show it and there's drama and it's very cinematic.
And Bandit Queen also we saw in Media Classic. So by Bandit Queen was banned, somewhere Sriram sourced a VHS copy of Bandit Queen when it was banned.
Okay.
And we all were very excited. We had gotten it for one night, I remember.
Yeah.
It was so much excitement. And it was a room smaller than this. It was this smaller room. And then everybody, Shivam was there, Sriram was there, Shiv Subramaniam was there, Ken Phillips was there, I was there. The whole room was filled with people. Like some of them standing, and we saw Bandit Queen like that on a small TV. And we were so excited with that film, I remember.
So, how do you think these two movies, Bandit Queen and Satya, changed the perspective, the way filmmakers looked at it and the way we treated such subjects? How do you think it inspired, I don't know whether that's the right word, the next generation of filmmakers?
For me, I don't know. For me, it had a profound impact on me. I was too much of a beginner to understand how it affected other people. I just know the sequence of things. The way it happened was, उस समय Bandit Queen बनी थी. It was banned.
Yeah.
And Bandit Queen, Shekhar Kapoor, I remember, went with his handcuffs and a Filmfare Award. Things like that. He was dealing with that. And what else had happened at that time was, Plus Channel was trying to make some films, and Sudhir was working on this film called Is Raat Ki Subah Nahi.
Yeah.
So somewhere because of Bandit Queen, a lot of filmmakers started going into that zone. And if Bandit Queen is Ki Subah nahi wouldn't have happened, Satya wouldn't have happened.
And
So it's all interconnected.
for us, these movies were like, a huge change from the kind of movies that were coming there. I don't want to name names, but I used to watch those movies and say, yeah, I don't like this, but public seems to be enjoying it. What do I do? Am I wrong or what is wrong? Kind of thing. But these movies were, like, I also like it, people also like it, so at least you get some kind of, okay, this path I can follow, kind of thing.
And that's what happened. It's because I remember my first meeting of Satya was with Ramuji was also, I was very excited. I came back to Media Classic and he wanted me to write with him and all that. But it was only about wanting to make a gangster film, very raw with newcomers. It was basically like, I want to make a gangster film with Manoj Bajpayee. Manoj set up the meeting. And the history of that was because after Raman Raghav, there was Sriram who made Auto Narayan
Yeah.
and Ranga Billa.
Yeah.
There was Ranga Billa made.
Auto Shankar.
Auto Shankar. Auto Shankar was turned into Auto Narayan.
Okay.
Auto Shankar and Ranga Billa. 3 films were made. Ranga Billa with Jutsi, Auto Shankar with Shiv. The 4th one was supposed to be Nagarajan that Kamal Sir was supposed to direct and I had written it. Which was not taking off. And I had recommended Manoj Bajpayee for that. So for Manoj had not done a lead role till that time. And for Manoj thought that this is my only writer who's my fan from theatre days. And he's such a fan that he sees me in the main role of Nagaraj. Nagarajan never got made. That thing stayed with Manoj. So when Ramu was shooting Dod, he told Manoj, I want to make my next film with you, gangster film, find me a writer. So he immediately thought of me. So that is the connection. That's how I went to Ramu.
Okay. So once you both started working for a factory, it was called.
The factory started later.
Much
Started
later, much later.
Then it was just
After
Rama.
that, he made his first film, Panch. So I went on that set because that was up to now we were doing other things. When he made Panch, then I used to go and say, I met Tutu Sharma there.
Tutu Sharma.
And he signed me to do something. Then Panch never got released, just like Raman Raghavan never got released. But it's like, these are bootleg movies, which some people have seen. And
some people have seen internally and passed it on.
But you
किसी
both,
का कोई copy है.
both share a camaraderie. How was a regular day like hanging out and did you was it movie screenings that where you had your addas or
Media Classic
parties?
was the only adda.
no, because that time we used to like for example, I remember when we found Goodfellas, and Goodfellas was never, we saw it on VHS, that too. And you discover, wow, this is how a movie can be made. Suddenly there's a freeze and a voiceover, and that it jumps 4 months or 6 years or whatever you can do with the. So I don't know, it was all learning times, and we are still learning, of course, but those days, those movies really opened us up, So.
You both had very different exposure. You came from FGI, you must have seen a lot of international cinema, and you were a film buff who watched all kind of Hindi cinema. And Anurag, if you can, both can say your early memories of this kind of film.
Yeah, I was very intimidated by FTI. My first memory was in Delhi when I actually started getting into films. There was this discussion, there was this magazine called Journal of Arts and Ideas. There was Mani Kaur and Madan Gopal Singh and Anup Singh who made Kissa. I used to sit and discuss Tarkovsky. So I remember there was a screening at the Russian Cultural Center of Tarkovsky's movies and I saw it. I was like, the visuals don't leave you but you don't understand. I didn't understand the thing, I was too young. And I was actually trying to understand. The pressure then was, you must understand, you must try and see what the director is saying. So I was like, in this curiosity, I would go and sit with these guys when they were talking, and Rajat Kapoor was there. And when they would talk about cinema, I understood nothing. I felt like I'm an idiot. Because they talked in metaphors, they talked about, and the discussion used to be so intelligent that even if I buy the Journal of Arts and Ideas later and read through it, it makes you feel like I was very intimidated by FTI. For me, I fell in love with FTI after meeting Jairam. Because I thought he was the coolest person who I understood.
No, because in FTI used to scare, first couple of years we used to get like the same thing what he's saying. There is a certain thing, you must like a certain kind of movie. My thing was, I like French Connection, I love French Connection, I love Psycho, so, and those films also were there in the archives, so once in a while we used to have those movies, or Wages of Fear.
Wages of Fear.
So I said, you can be academic about those movies also, but the first emotion that comes through is sheer joy of watching a good film,
I think I was scared of the academics for the longest time. Yeah. And वहाँ पे जाके the FTI became a cool place for me after I met Sriram and everything. And through Sriram I met other people. And suddenly it was like, okay, here I can come. The most complex of was Kamal Saru, but he was so accessible in terms of when you sit down with him and talk to him. He was a very accessible person and he made sense of a lot of things. So in a way, Kamal became my school because I was writing for him. And the way he would ask questions and push me, and he was Hindi speaking like I was. So he would take me in different directions. And he showed Om Darbadar. Om Darbadar had such an impact on me that literally that whole song of emotional attachar comes from there somewhere. You know, that one visual of Om Darbadar, the way he shot it. So कहीं ना कहीं those influences stay in your head. So वहाँ से चालू हुआ. And then I met Sridhar. After I met Sridhar, Sridhar overtook Sriram and Kamal and everybody for me. Because Sridhar was this candy man to me. He was showing me candies. He was giving me candies every day. And Sridhar till date does that. He gives candies to all the writers and people. So Sridhar was the candy man. He took me to this whole world of noir and cinema. And then for me, I would come to Media Classics to find Sridhar to interact with him. So he gives me more. And Sridhar...
And whenever he comes, I'm like, where is that bag of his books? You know? Oh.
Sridhar introduced me to Lotus also. Sridhar took me to Lotus for the first time. And Sridhar was doing every art episode and all those things was Sridhar.
So is it safe to say that you both clicked over this all?
He didn't talk much then. He didn't talk much then. Sridhar was talkative. He didn't talk much then.
Yeah.
And Sridhar would fill the room with energy.
But he still does that. I mean,
he used to fill the room with energy. And he was talking, and I was just fascinated by, I wanted to read every book that he talked about. And which I actually did. I think that is what helped me all these years. Because the amount of reading I did in that 1 or 2 years, I think since then I have not done so much reading.
So, your branch came first, or was it Ek Hasina Thi?
Panch never came.
Oh yeah, but it's
Ek
got...
Hasina Thi came first.
Yeah.
And even Johnny Gaddar came before Black Rat.
No, but Panch was made much before.
Oh,
But
it was made
because
before.
So other than Vijay Anand, who do you think in the 50s, 60s dealt with crime?
I mean, Gurudat has done it in a couple of
Gurudat.
movies. Raj Khosla has done it.
CID, Jal, Raj Khosla. Raj Khosla was CID.
Then there's a one filmmaker who, I mean, people don't know now, but Bridge. I used to love Bridge. You know,
Yeah,
Victoria number 203, Ek se badkar ek, Bombay 405 miles. You know,
Bombay 405.
like, what is the opening? One guy gets out of jail, another guy gets out of jail, they meet at some place, there's a girl who gets off a bus. And अभी यहाँ से शुरू हुआ तो क्या मजा? It's like so Bridge is another filmmaker who is forgotten now, but used to make terrific films.
Okay. And what about you, Anurag? Or Indian films? Did you
Indian
watch
films,
much?
yeah, I used to watch a lot of Indian films. But you don't realize what really impacts you until much later in life. For me, I was very lucky. Like I was very young, and I came to the right place. I always feel that it all depends on where you begin. My right place was Media Classic, because when I reached there, I learned my entire filmmaking production skills from one Media Classic, from one film, Auto Narayan. Because there was no money to shoot that film. I think it was done in less than $1 lakh.
Yeah, because
All the films were done in less than $1 lakh, and the way they were done, manipulating time and space and everything, and not having money and shooting fast, and Hari Nair was the cameraman. Hari Nair used to do those things. So the way they did it, for me it was just standing and watching. So that was my time of being impressionable. I was absorbing everything. And then I moved on from there to Jayate and Satya. Like Hansal Mehta had no money to make a film. It was literally like, this kisi tarah ban rahi hai. And then Satya again was like that, shooting in all these places. So my whole education was, you are not going to have money to make the film. It began from there. Nobody is going to give you money to
actually,
make your
Satya
film.
for us was a movie like everybody felt we have made it. We are proud of that film as if we have made it. You know, so that's a great feeling to have about any movie. You know, so.
But you still make movies like that, isn't it?
Because that has been my school. So I have never complained about not having enough money. I think the important thing is to go and do. I had a lot of drive. I was like always running around. So everybody, Sriram and Sriram always used to be, "Tu kaise karta hai itna sab kuch?" But I
asked him this morning also.
I had a lot of drive. I would just go and do things. मैं तो इतना भी पैसा मिले मैं फिल्म बनाने घुस जाऊँगा. I will not wait for more money to come in. So I had stories to tell, and I figured out, I learned from them how to tell it when you have nothing.
But you are probably more prolific than Sriram has been.
Yeah.
So, do you like to take your time and...
I will take my time, but it happens and...
I'm the David Dhawan of indie filmmakers. I make more. I don't stop.
Sometimes just keep away a story which I should have done, maybe kind of thing, but maybe I'm getting faster now. I'm hoping to.
I am hoping you get faster.
So do you think it's Anurag's that enthusiasm, childlike enthusiasm maybe, which makes him so prolific?
No, he's got that, like you said, that drive to go and do, and I mean, some people have that, it's fab, and Ramu has that.
Ramu is
And Ramu used to like when
He
Satya
did it
finished,
also.
I mean, I thought 3 months he'd be having fun, but he went and shot another movie in 28 days, of course.
15 days. 20 days.
So I think that's the way to be. It also gets you off a movie, if you made a successful movie, you're out of that zone and you're gone to something else, and if you have made a film that didn't work, it's best to get out of the zone as soon as
you can.
So
It's very important. When a film bombs, you have to immediately start the next film, otherwise you will stay there.
Was that your thought when you?
That was that, 100%. My thing is, I am not going to stay here and think about Bomb Velvet. And it's very easy. When everybody denounces the film, you also denounce it. So they don't ask you, just get away. Make the next film.
So, Sriram, you have always worked with, often worked with stars, popular actors. So, is that an advantage in terms of getting a bigger budget?
I've never really had a big budget except for
scale.
Indian Vinod, where there's the first only time I really worked with a star in that sense, because they were both big stars at that time. Otherwise, when I was doing Hasina, I mean, Urmila was a big star, but Saif was kind of just getting there.
I was reinvented in Hasina.
He was just getting there, and then Johnny Gadar was a new guy, though of course I had a great star, Dharminder. So,
But there's also another thing. I remember his fascination with Saif was right from the beginning. Much before the Hasina thing started, he would talk only about Saif. Like what is you can do with Saif.
I still love it.
So I started seeing Saif differently because of him. Because he had this fascination with Saif right from the beginning.
Was it the
Much
first,
before he did Ek Hasina thing.
anti-hero role that Saif did,
Yeah,
Ek Hasina thing?
Ek Hasina
So,
thing.
what was the idea behind casting him in that kind of?
See, with Saif, I used to see him on interviews. I used to never like his films. I used to say, what's he doing, And he's done, Ek Hasina was 44th film, by the way. So you can imagine kitna kiya hoga usne pehle. And he told me that I was not keeping count, but so I used to see his interviews and I used to find him damn intelligent and kind of must. And how come the movies he's doing are all ridiculous movies, So I wanted, when I had Johnny Gadar, I had that script much earlier before Hasina. So I wanted to meet him, but I couldn't meet him. And then I had asked him also, can we try? And he said, go to Film City, and he's there shooting. I said, movie jaake udhar kisko bhaga denge milko. So I didn't have that drive which he was talking about. Today I would have gone, but.
So those are fun times.
So, what is the most crazy thing that you guys have done? Something.
The crazy thing for movie, what I did was, I really wanted to see this movie Messerine. Messerine is like 6 years back. And Messerine released in London. Part 1. And then part 2 came out, I realized August, May 8th ke aspas, 7th or 8th August, first part released, 28th August, second part was releasing. And I researched and realized Curzon Soho is playing back to back part 1 and part 2. So I told if I tell anyone I will be stupid. So I took the night flight on Friday to London. I spent 35,000 rupees. Reached London in the morning, went straight to Curzon Soho, saw 3 films back to back, took the night flight, Sunday I was back.
I've got a similar story, but on a low budget. We finished.
I like just spend the entire day watching these 3-4 films. 3 films back to back because night में flights and थोड़ा जल्दी जाना पड़ता last show नहीं देख सकता था and they somehow used to have this 3-4 shows in a day. I came back in the night and did not tell anyone. I just skipped telling anyone what I did for the longest time. Because everybody says spending 35,000 rupees to see 3 movies and coming back, how stupid can one be?
For me, it was like when I was in school, a movie called Red Rose, which also was a serial killer movie, by the way. So that was in that
Rajesh
time.
Khanna.
Yeah, it comes on TV also.
It wasn't be coming so often, but it's an adult's movie. But the thing is, it used to, that time movies used to come to Pune. I used to be live in Pune. About 4 weeks later, after the main Bombay circuit thing, then it will come 2-3 weeks later. So I'm like desperate to see it. I know it's come on Friday, so at home I said, Acha, I'm going to study at a friend's house, it's this thing, so I'll come back a bit late. I took a train, went to Bombay, saw it in Chitra and Dadar, saw the movie, had lunch somewhere in some pav bhaji or something, got into another train, Siangad, and back with my books and everything. And unfortunately, I didn't like the movie. I had gone with high hopes. So I didn't trip on the movie as much as
back to back Messerine.
Red Rose.
I think somewhere that also has a role to play in Vasepur 1 and 2 maybe. I don't know.
No, that's what these things they all add to the jazz.
So you have watched Raman Raghav too?
I have watched a very
He's seen the first early cut.
Okay. Is there something that you'd like to tell Anurag or ask him about it?
About the movie? No, I mean, let me see the. I mean, in the sense, I won't talk about the movie much because there should be a surprise factor to it for the viewer also. So, but I was very excited that he's finally making it because I knew that after Bombay that this is going to be. So I was wondering what's he going to do. He's got a very smart, different take on it. So it's. I mean, see it now.
Well, I remember while shooting, I called Sriram in the night. Because we were shooting our sequence. I suddenly said we have to have a nod to the original Raman Raghav. And I have not seen it for a long time because each time I was chasing him to see it, and then I decided not to see it. It's better not to see it. One shot I remember from memory, which is the most haunting shot, which is the shot that has had the strongest impact. I said, let me try and give a nod to that shot. It's a long single take. I called him, I said, can I do that? He said, bindas kar.
I also must have been influenced by some Orson Welles or some touch of evil or one of those things. You know? So, but yeah, that shot I saw in the rough cut.
You both, you can comment on each other's work. I think you both approach your stories in very different manner.
Which is about a man who doesn't exist, which is also jewel thief. So they are two different stories about with one premise, you know. So I always wondered, did Vijayan get inspired by Northern Northwest to make jewel thief? Perhaps it did.
Northern Northwest got later made by Jyotin Goyal as Inam 10,000.
That is.
Jyotin Goyal remade Inam 10,000 where Sanjay Dutt was thought to be that person and the girl turns out to be that other person.
So you both have this king of Bollywood trivia.
Bollywood trivia. They are the films that we loved. I loved Inam 10,000.
Then there was a movie called Chakravyuh made by Basu Chatterjee. The only thriller he's made, which was a remake of 39 Steps. Again with Rajesh Khanna. I have to be a big Rajesh Khanna fan. So.
We have done a lot of Hitchcock in India. We borrowed a lot from Hitchcock. How much fun this one say. Hitchcock and then Truffaut, Fritz Lang. For me, these are Samuel Fuller,
John Huston. Lots of, and plus there's the French noir school, you know. I can't pronounce all the names, but yeah.
Yeah, Jean-Pierre Melville. And Claude Chabrol.
Yeah.
Claude Sauté.
So
Jules Dassin, yeah.
We have borrowed from them or gotten inspired from them.
But for me, I still watch the films. I have all of the films. All those old black and white French, and including Pepe Le Moko. Pepe Le Moko is a great classic. I've not seen a crime film shot like that in a bazaar, like in a slum and hub like that. I think that was for me the first great gangster movie. So there's so much, and I have all of it. I'm just like.
So Anurag, you have been showing your movies on international platforms for a while. Sriram, you have never thought of it?
You don't think about those things. When they happen, they're good.
Mainly, you have the Indian audience in mind. I could be wrong.
We are very
for the narrative. How, if you can say a bit about your process, how you.
Like somehow music you don't mind because some of the films that influenced us, music was used so terrifically. I genuinely believe Gurudutt and Vijayanand were two people who shot songs in a way no other director did. The influence of it, Vijayanand's influence you can see in a Bansali also.
Yeah.
You can see in a Bansali, that whole song of Windows opening and from 1942 was completely influenced by the song from Jolly Madam. Pal Bhar Ke Liye. And वो influence direct.
And if you say take a movie like Guide and remove the song, the movie will collapse. It will just not hold because scenes. I mean, the song does the work of 7 scenes actually, if it's used right.
Earlier songs were used as part of the narrative. Even when there was a song, it was always part of the narrative. All the songs.
You show violence, like.
I think we move away from violence.
Exactly. So the thought behind it and how do you probably show it?
For me, the idea is to create a mood and everything, not really to show violence. One time that I've really shown violence was also in Wasilpur, a little bit. It was still kept off screen, but it feels like every shot. The beheading shot is shot from the back. You don't really see those things. Like all the stabbing and everything is all out of frame. I've always kept it out of frame because I'm not very comfortable with showing the act of मैं अभी सर कटते हुए दिखाता हूँ या खून निकलते हुए दिखाता हूँ. For me, those things I try to stay away from. I like to keep violence off screen because somewhere I also feel it has a larger psychological impact in the sense people really think about it. And it always has a larger impact. Rest everything for me is just a gimmickry, It's like गोली चल रही है, गोली लग रही है, उड़ रहे हैं, वो सब थोड़ा सा doesn't work for me somehow.
You have to find cinematic ways of treating violence, because I mean some people love slasher, but I think we like it. And even our audiences don't much like it, and it kind of, I don't want to put something which you will turn your head away. Occasionally it may happen. You are required to do that because you need to confront them with, okay, this also you have to watch, kind of thing. Like, but sometimes I mean you try to find and leave it more. You leave to the imagination of the viewer. I think they are going to fill and do a much better job.
Much better job. Now, half the time, like you see, was it for climax?
Yeah.
We never could get the blood right. You still see when Ramadhi Singh is shot, the blood is flowing on. I said, "Kisme null pull diya." Their body में veins of blood तो होता ही नहीं है. But that was done in the CG, so we never get it right. So when once your time shot, I'm like, why I should have just stayed away, because I was depending on the visual effects guys. They said हो जाएगा, हो जाएगा, हो जाएगा. It never happens. It doesn't. We just don't know how to do it in an ethic, like the cinematic ethics, right?
Like for me, one of the top things, during taking a shot is like, acha, now put the blood. Like, oh hell, this is going to go wrong, to change the costume, another 1 hour, and you're never going to get that. So I tell my camera to karna hai. Just put it right where you think it.
Because the first time I saw, when I really felt that अच्छे से किया है, when Sushant Singh Rajput gets shot in that Kai Poche, it was done so smoothly and nicely. And like, why can't we always do stuff like that? Those are the things that we don't get. अपना action थोड़ा गड़बड़ हो जाता है.
And older movies somehow managed to, like Sholay, there is no blood anywhere.
No blood anywhere.
It's like when those family massacre, there is no blood.
Yeah.
So, though they all act like they are being shot and they fall, but there's no blood on their hand. No.
So we worked with him for a long time. For me, it's like I wanted to work with him, but when I saw Badlapur, it gave me more confidence that this is just the right guy.
He is the guy. I mean, when he told me Nawaz, and Nawaz is the guy to play that character.
And also, I think influence of Nawaz most for me came from knowing Raghuveer Yadav's performance. See, the real Raman Raghav was much taller and bigger, and I had no idea about that.
Okay.
When I saw, for me, Raghuveer Yadav was Raman Raghav. So for me, I'm taking that performance. Who's the guy who's like station, मतलब body type and everything, who can do it? For me, right from the beginning was Nawaz. Because in my head, Raman Raghav was Raghuveer Yadav. If I had seen the real Raman Raghav in this size, it's a you don't realize it. It's a subconscious thing. If I had seen the real Raman Raghav, then I would have probably cast a taller and a bigger guy.
Yeah, there are not many pictures of him.
Not many pictures of him. And he's only described in the picture. There's only one face profile of his, but he's described as this tall and big guy. But there are not many pictures of him.
You both work so closely with actors. How do they change or influence the script once the casting is done?
See, you want to answer? See, for me, the script is never complete till the casting is done. It's when the actor comes in, he comes in with his own with so much inputs, and this way the actor will. Say sometimes you tell the actor, okay, this line is important. Aage piche, what do you think? And they might do their own thing, which is far superior to what you have written. So the actor is actually a very vital part of the scene in the writing also.
I think 50% of the film is done if your casting is right. Just casting for me is a very important thing in making a film. Because casting is as important as the script. When your casting is right, it also adds to the script. Because an actor brings a lot with themselves. And I always alter it around. Like, say for example, my short film I was doing Clean Shaving.
Yeah.
And because there was a Radhika Apte, when I wrote the script, it had a lot of dialogues. With Radhika Apte coming in, and the way she would express herself, I felt there was no need to put dialogues. And there's a whole chunk of the last 7 minutes of short film that was without dialogues because of the way the Radhika and Satyadeep were performing. The way they both would communicate just with their eyes. And it became so much more powerful. So I just eliminated dialogues. That's how they influenced that script. Or with Nawaz, I know the things that I can do and I can push him to do things. So we always say कि जो किया वो नहीं करना है. जो अभी तक किया वो नहीं करना है. So how do we go about approaching it? So we just negate everything else. And there's a trust. There's complete trust कि हाँ इधर आता है तो completely he's not then thinking of anything. He wants to push himself. And I want to push him. So मजा आता है. But same time, then you have to balance other. Like somebody who's coming from an outside world, you're constantly balancing him, trying to introduce the world to them. There's a lot of things that which becomes an effort sometimes. So you would rather stick to the lines because you're working more on the accent and dialogue delivery than rest of the dynamics. So casting is very important.
And you both are known to improvise a lot on the sets. actors I have spoken to, both who have worked with you, they say, so how does that, and somebody told me that Sriram plays these mind games.
No, I think everybody does that. It's not a mind game. It's just to get a
Actor in a certain mood.
You tell an actor something, you don't tell the other co-actor something, and see what happens there, because you're just hoping for a moment which is true.
See, it sometimes works. Like Ugly, the most famous scene of Ugly was improvised.
Yeah.
The police station scene.
The mobile.
Correct. So I had one very experienced actor in Girish Kulkarni.
Yeah.
I had one actor who was medium experienced but came from mainstream school, which was Vineet Singh, because he had only done Vasepur with me, but in his head he was still mainstream. And Rahul Bhatt, who was coming from a complete outsider, who was coming in. So I had to give different feedback to all three. Girish's feedback was the moment they're going in a wrong direction, you have to bring them back to the topic. That was his feedback. And I gave him a lot of things. That, jo bhi karenge na, just play on that. So, and Girish is a writer, he's a director, he's an actor, he's an improviser. I was depending on Girish in that scene. So if you really watch the scene carefully, so for Rahul, he will tend to get emotional in the scenes. For him, like, he's the father and he will doing that seriously. With Vineet, he was interrupting. I told Vineet, interrupt Vineet ko chup kara de. And then the scene went on because I had not given them an ending. They had a rough thing to go from, it just went on going. It went, the first single take went on for 14 minutes till I actually burst out laughing. And then I burst out laughing, they all looked at me as if ab to kaatna hi padega, to cut ho gaya. You know, because this seriously went into the phone and this class started clicking, it came out. Because of the thing, I said, no, I have photo post karna. And next take my post bhi kiya.
Any other experience you would like to share maybe from joining on the...
About improvising?
Yeah, some scene where you probably let the actors do their stuff and something magical.
Lots of them, but nothing which I, like, for example, in Badlapur, because I had similarly Radhika and Nawaz and, actors who you can just give them, the scene and say, okay, how do you see it, what do you do? These are my lines, these are my pointers. Again, I mean, like there's one scene in Badlapur where it's a long thing I'll tell you. Varun comes to the house for the first time, Vinay and Radhika's house. Before that, there was one scene which I luckily not shot, which was like between Vinay and Radhika, there was supposed to be a scene. But this scene, the way she did it, you don't need that other scene because you have the viewers filling in so much, So I think there are some actors do it, including like I'm trying to remember if I improvise with Dharamji, because he used to be terrific. When I'm first narrating to him, so he will start enacting in his house. He will say, wow, this is superb. So I'll tell Pooja, please just write down whatever he's saying, because good lines लिख रहे हैं. So we used to actually say, I mean, yeah. So how do you say it? These are my lines. So he will just improvise, but on the set, you have to, I mean, then he is like, you have to give it the lines in Hindi, he will write it in Urdu, and वो एक अलग process होता है. But I have tried to improvise here with Dharamji, and I have had some good moments I've got, I think.
And where do you see the female characters fit in? How do you...
It changes from film to film. For me, it really changes from film to film. Like for me, the world of Raman Raghav is very different from the world of Vasepur. The world of Vasepur, there was space for a woman to be the matriarch, to do things. Taking even in the patriarchal world, they had their own identity. In the world of Raman Raghav, it's about these two men. So women are there. There's like one character there who's independent and everything, but she's still kind of suppressed. There's still a world which is more patriarchal. Other than the women who are outside their world. In the sense, like the maid. Her husband is an alcoholic, she sleeps outside and she takes charge and she takes control. But in the film, she doesn't have much role to play. So in the world that normally in this world of Raman Raghav, they're mostly victims. They're mostly, just pawns. They're not more than that. But that changes from film to film. Like in Ugly, there was a different place for that. In Vasepur, she had a different woman. In Devdi, there were different women. So it changes from film to film. It has to just be believable in that world. They have to be real in the world they inhabit. Yeah.
And how much do you borrow from real life incidents? Black Friday.
We all borrow a lot.
And
we only borrow from them.
And what is the process? Is it newspaper or various sources?
Everything. I think everything.
Because Badlapur is also based on a real story.
Based on a book actually. But but I mean, that's when you're writing it वो अपने आप आता है. वो there's no, I can't think of any specific kind of इतना we take from real life, इतना we imagine. There's no such proportional thing.
Well, sometimes you interpret my own relationship with someone. I put in a film of crime. As a real influence is not really has anything to do with newspaper or anything. The human behavior is absolutely a borrow from people around me. So characters ka human behavior. So that's a borrow from people I know.
Especially Nawaz has a lot of, इनसे अच्छा मेरा एक दोस्त ऐसा था, and he has some.
Nawaz copies a lot of his writing.
He's got a lot of.
There's a very funny story of like Nawaz, because there's an actor who I worked with in Gulal. He and Nawaz were room partners, and he had a very peculiar way of talking. Nawaz borrowed his entire personality for Lunchbox. When Lunchbox came on, the other actor got so angry and upset. He would call me. मेरे को कॉपी किया उसने पूरा पिक्चर में. मेरे को कॉपी किया. मेरा रोल क्या है? मेरे लिस्ट पे ना. He's an actor who plays a big role in Gulal.
Okay.
Best in time out.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, thank you, Sriram and Anurag, for talking with us and giving this insightful and interesting story about Indian cinema. And Raman.
Now we all know it's your first time. We all know it's your first time. Please, thank you so much. This was the most fun interview we have had. And I'm saying thank you on her behalf, because we all know it's her first time. I'm saying thank you on her behalf. I think this is the most fun time we have had.
What did you? She introduced us as some stalwart something. We are not those. We are normal.
We are stalls. We are just stalls.
Upper stalls.
We are different stalls.
Thank you very much.